Joining us now to explain how businesses and employees can prepare for reopening is Robin Paggi, Training and Development Specialist with WorkLogic HR. Thanks so much for joining us virtually, Robin.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about where we are right now. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of talk about when are we going to reopen? When are businesses going to open their doors and start back up again? We just saw new unemployment numbers that were just released today showing nearly 4 million extra unemployment job claims today. That brings the total to 30 million. So again, a lot of people are out of work. There's this talk that we want to reopen the country. Some states already have a plan put in place to reopen as soon as tomorrow. Whose decision is it, though, ultimately on when to reopen?
Well, as you said in the previous segment, it is the governors and then local governments. And so one of the things is that we know in California, we have a lot of rural towns as well as big cities. And so that's why that local governments will decide based upon what's best for their community as well. So we need to pay attention to what the governor says, but we also need to pay attention to what our county health department says and what the city of Bakersfield says for those of us who live here in the city, because they are going to determine when we can go back to work. Now, one of the things that the city said recently is that if everybody wears masks out in public, then that will give an indication that people are serious and that we can begin to ease restrictions. And so I encourage people to do that.
If someone is out of work right now, if someone is furloughed right now, but understanding that things could start to slowly get back to normal, I want to reemphasize slowly, what should they do now to kind of prepare for that moment of reopening and for those people who are laid off to possibly apply for a new job?
Well, one of the things that employers have to do a lot of work, and so before employees can do anything to get back to work. And the Center for Disease Control and OSHA have established guidelines. And much like our different phases in being able to reopen here, they have 5 phases that employers need to follow in order to reopen. So there's a lot of work that employers need to start doing now in order to get ready for employees to be able to come back. So what they should do is go to the Center for Disease Control website or the OSHA website. They're working in conjunction on this, and see what those phases are. There's a lot of work that employers have to begin doing now in order for employees to be able to come back. And for employees to get ready to come back, again, one of the things, employees who are furloughed means that they are collecting unemployment, but they still might be able to receive their medical benefits. And so that's one of the things they need to check in with their employer to see what the situation is on that, what the company policies are on that, to make sure that they're not missing out on any benefits that they might be able to receive at the moment.
Now, we're talking about reopening, but unfortunately, we're still seeing people who are being furloughed or laid off. As a matter of fact, we got another batch of warning letters yesterday showing that more companies are laying off people. What should people do if they are either concerned that they could be furloughed or lose their job, or if they have lost their job recently? What are some of the options that they can utilize?
Well, unfortunately, the biggest option that they have is to apply for unemployment. And we know that the system is backlogged at the moment. So that's one of the things that is very unfortunate, is that the government says that everybody qualifies for unemployment, but yet it's so difficult to get because of the backlog. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other jobs available. And so that's one of the things that we're seeing, that there's a big surge in hiring in warehousing and delivery and that type of thing. And so they might consider another job at the moment that's outside of their regular job capacity in order to keep themselves going and not rely upon unemployment.
Robin Paggi with WorkLogic HR, thanks so much for joining us. Yes, we are in the middle of this. We are in the thick of this. I know that it's going to continue for several more weeks and months to, listening to what government and health officials are saying. So thanks so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.